Good morning and welcome back to Community Couch Time, a daily talk show where we talk about things that are important, things that are happening in our community, in our state, in this country, and internationally. Oftentimes, the topics that we discuss are ones that others aren't talking about. And the question is, why aren't we? And so now a word from Ms. Wallace.
Good morning, great minds and good people. I'm Miss Tiffany Wallace, and thank you for having me for Community Couch Time. Now, let's start the discourse.
Good morning and welcome back to Community Couch Time. How are you, Ms. Wallace?
I'm doing well. I'm very excited for our Community Couch Time today. Thank you so much, Ms. Cardona. And we would like to welcome to our couch, Miss Church. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing pretty good. Thank you for having me on, Ms. Cardona, Ms. Wallace.
Thank you for being here. Honestly, it really is exciting. It's very hard for us to contain ourselves when we're excited. We're like, she's here. Yeah. Okay, so we have some questions for you. We really love and appreciate the wealth of knowledge that you bring to our school, to the community, to the country, to the world, right? You're a really accomplished woman of the arts. And so we have a couple questions for you. And the first one is for you to kind of share with us a little bit about the beautiful Black contribution to, theater and to film of this country or even of the world, whatever. Just go for it.
Okay, that is a really big question. There's so many contributions.
Right.
But two things come to mind right now. First is a piece of theater that has been one of the most inspirational pieces in my life. And that is Ntozake Shange's For Color Girls Who've Considered Suicide When the Rainbow Wasn't Enough. I first came across that piece in high school, preparing for a competition, a festival, DTAS, Drama Teachers Association of Southern California. And I went to the library looking for, I was in an all-girl group and I wanted something that was not Guys and Dolls and, Almost Maine. I wanted something that was for me and the girls who were in my group. And I happened to come across this Cora poem. And I was reading it and I was just thinking, could we stage this? I had no idea what it was. I was probably a 10th grader in high school. And then I started to do more research on the piece and realized it had been staged. And it had been staged with some of the greatest Black actresses of our time, several times over. And I read it all the way through. We staged it, did it for this competition. We're probably the first high schoolers to bring it to the festival. And I'm pretty sure we walked away with second or third place in Southern California. But that piece, every time I go back to it at different stages in my life and read it, it means and says something totally different. And there's a line in the play, in the core poem, towards the end, it says, because being Black and being a woman is a metaphysical dilemma I just have not mastered yet. And I might be paraphrasing that, but that has stuck with me because as a biracial, multi-ethnic, first generation US born in my family, the identity crisis has been really real and has lasted for a very long time. And I'm still in the middle of it. And so that piece has always grounded and centered me. I'm not a very religious person. And so my scriptures has been literature and history. That's where I find scripture. And the other thing that's coming to mind is recently or this past summer, after the murder of George Floyd, a group of Black, Indigenous, and peoples of color theater artists, they got together and created a collective called We See You WAT, We See You White American Theater. And they put together a list of demands, and they have been super active on social media, calling out theater companies and boards and Broadway associations, demanding that changes be made in the name of racial equity, social justice, and anti-racism. And that has been really inspiring to see happen and take place, especially as a theater educator, because oftentimes, you know, I question whether or not I want to encourage my students to go into an industry that might absolutely disrupt who they are and who they were meant to be. And I feel the same way sometimes about education as well, but I have been really inspired watching We See You Watt just unapologetically go after folks who have been wronged and call for change, demand change.
That's really great. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put these resources at the end so that students can also look up both of those resources. Thank you so much for that. Beautiful.
That's really, really powerful and definitely resonates with me. You know, and probably a lot of people, probably you too, Ms. Cardona, like just feeling excluded. Your stories are not told. When you try to tell them, there's an excuse why you shouldn't talk about it, why it's not important, or why it's too much to talk about when it's just the truth, when it's your truth and the truth of so many people. And so I appreciate you bringing this to light and speaking on it so much and so eloquently. I wanted to ask you a question that is somewhat connected to that too. Recently, I was reading about how, you know, there's Hollywood, right? That's one big film industry. Well, there's also Nollywood in Nigeria and then Bollywood in India. And so they're actually coming together to create this film, which is similar to, if you've seen My Big Fat Greek Wedding, it's hilarious. It's a wonderful film that discusses Greek culture and family. But it's bringing an Indian man and Nigerian woman and how their families are going to get along, be connected, and their love together. And so I wanted to ask you, now this is where we're at this time. It's taken a long time, but this is finally happening. But where do you see the connections between history, Black historical storytelling, like Anansi the Spider, for example, and Black cultural expression in the arts and film and plays and production? Where do you see these connections and these histories colliding? Because there's just been so much to disrupt our ability to even speak our language that was illegal. So
thank you for that question. There's a lot of ways to interpret the question. I think first I want to say and like just recognize my position or proximity to Black American history. I am Nigerian American, and so my experience is slightly different. I say slightly because for the most part, my experience has been, I was raised as Black American. I'm from Inglewood, California. This is my experience, right? However, it's sprinkled with like Nigerian experiences. And I've never been back home to my father's homeland. It is on the list, the top of my list, but I've never been. So I've never actually had a full Nigerian upbringing or experience. I'm somewhere in the middle. So I just want to say that. The other thing about, like, in terms of Black history, I think as a people, we have to get out of saying, enslaved people, because we weren't, or descendants of slaves. We were not slaves. We were actually royalty and griots and storytellers and caretakers and artisans, craftsmen, and then slavery was forced upon us. It disrupted our legacies and our history and our culture. But then again, I think maybe it didn't disrupt a thing because we just sort of fell back into what was in our bones. You know what I mean? Like, American culture doesn't move without Black culture or Black people. And that says a whole lot about memory and genetics and DNA, right? Like, the act and art of storytelling is so deeply innate in us that no matter where we are moved or relocated, we know how to do this thing, right? And I only recently put that thought together, as I've been actively seeking out my Samoan heritage and learning the language and trying to get in touch with those indigenous roots, realizing that storytelling is very much a part of that culture as well. So much so that we have a chief whose job it is to tell stories of our people. And then I thought, wait a second, that's also a griot in West Africa, in Nigeria. And then I realized that this is storytelling, and indigenous people, no matter where we come from, where our roots are, storytelling is a part of who we are as people, part of our culture, also just as human beings. And so I am always excited and fascinated and pleased to see the ways in which stories unfold. So music and painting and film, and now what you're saying, Bollywood and Nollywood coming together, that's fascinating. And so the Pacific Islander Nigerian in me is excited to see that Asian and Nigerian film come about. That'll be really exciting to see happen.
Thank you so much. Very, very insightful and very inspirational also. I just love that you were very clear to like encapsulate this notion of continued artistry, right? The continued beautiful human creation, right? That it has forged its way forward and will continue to. And I'm very inspired by also the resistance that you're referring to that's happening right now, so that we can make sure to get more of those stories out, right? So folks can express and have a wide public audience. So I'm really excited. And that brings us to our community Couch Time Daily Journal question. And the question for you out there is, what are the stories or the ways that you tell stories in your family? Share a story with us, or share an experience with storytelling with us. We're really excited to learn about it. We want to know in la quech.